Welcome to Loren Reads to You. Today I'm reading The Bedtime Killer by Loren Malloy. That's me. Make sure you're subscribing or following wherever you're watching or listening to this. And if you haven't heard chapters 1 through 19 yet, you might want to pause this, go watch or listen to those, and then come back to this. But it's up to you. So if you're ready, get comfortable, get cozy, and let's read together. Chapter 20. Horace sat in his truck listening to the radio. Night Prowler by AC/DC was playing. It was his absolute favorite song. He remembered reading the famous serial killer Richard Ramirez also thought this was the best song ever. It was a shame he was dead. He wondered if they could have been great friends. The song's lyrics floated into his mind very often. He began to bellow along with the radio. A rat runs down an alley and a chill runs down your spine. Horace chuckled darkly, thinking of the dead rats he left with the maid. Hearing the lyrics he loved the best, he said, "I'm your night prowler when you'll turn out the lights." As the guitar solo began, Horace gasped very hard. His mind had another flash image of a dingy caravan on a dark, desolate highway. The flash image, instead of disappearing, it continued until his eyes went from seeing that caravan parked on the side of the road to Horace being inside of it. A flash image of a blood-soaked carpet appeared, making his head hurt worse than it ever had. Horace couldn't breathe. He just kept gasping while holding his head. It hurt so much, but the images wouldn't go away, nor the pain in his head. He was suddenly back to a place he had locked up so tight in his mind, he subconsciously believed he had deleted the memory of it altogether. He was sitting in his truck in Georgia, gasping for breath, but his memories were somewhere much more dangerous. His thoughts were somewhere he truly never wanted to go again. Yet, here he was, back to the night his mother died. Horace remembered the smell from that awful caravan they lived in. His father dragged the three of them back and forth all over the country doing odd jobs. He was a horrible drunk who always lost a job because he got into another fight and they had to flee before the cops showed up. His father would always take it out on them, especially his mother. After every bender his father went on, it was always ended with his mother beaten and bloody. His father would force Horace to help put her to bed. He would make them both kiss his mother on the forehead. He'd hit Horace in the back of the head, saying, "What do you say to our beautiful lady?" "It's bedtime, baby," young Horace would answer. His father always forced him to then kiss her on the lips after and then push him out the door, saying, "Time for Daddy to show Mommy how much he loves her." Horace would fall asleep every night, trying to plug the sounds out of his mind. The night she died, his father acted like it was any other night, except she was dead before she made it to the bed. Horace remembered screaming, "You killed her!" His father hit him very hard in the back of the head, just like he had done repeatedly to his mother. The force of it knocked the young 7-year-old to the ground. Young Horace locked eyes with his mother and could see the life had gone out of them. She wasn't breathing. Her face was a mess from how badly he had beat her. Horace couldn't help screaming it again. "You killed her!" His father grabbed him by the throat and bellowed in his face. "How can you be that stupid? She's just sleeping. Help me put her to bed," young Horace cried out. "She's not sleeping. Her eyes are open. She's not breathing." Tears were pouring down his face. After being kicked and punched several times, young Horace was forced face to face and eye to eye with his dead mother. His father's mouth was right next to his ear. He hissed, "She's sleeping with her eyes open, stupid." He then punched young Horace in the head while shouting, "How can you be that stupid?" When he finally stopped punching him, he said to young Horace, "Now help me get her to bed." Young Horace was too little to actually help his father carry his mother, but he was forced to carry her ankles. After they got her into bed, his father forced him to perform the same routine. Say it! Horace's father hit him in the back of the head as punctuation. It's bedtime, baby, Horace cried. His father then grabbed the boy's head and pushed it against his mother's. Horace still remembered the feeling of his lips against her cold, lifeless forehead, her eyes wide open staring at him. His father had forced his mouth against hers and made him stay like that for several moments. Afterwards, he shoved young Horace into the nearest wall and said, If you look away, I'll kill you. It's time you learn how a man shows he loves a woman. It's all about giving them a lot of physical contact with your little guy. His father pointed to his penis. Young Horace watched his father undress himself, then he ripped off his mother's skirt. Horace remembered watching his father thrust against her for a bit before crying out. He then pulled himself up to her mouth and began thrusting in and out of her mouth. It seemed like years before it was all over. When his father finally finished, he rolled over to his dead wife and sighed, It's bedtime, baby. Horace's father gave her a quick kiss on the forehead and went to sleep, forgetting all about his son. Horace just stared at his naked and deceased mother all night. The next morning, his father woke up smiling, kissed his wife good morning, and had sex with her all over again. Afterwards, he kissed her cheek and said, Finally, the perfect lover. Horace and his father continued to travel from place to place. Every night, Horace was forced to do the same routine as the night before. The smell got worse and worse, as did the condition of his mother's body. Horace's father made Horace hold his mother's head in his lap. Nice and tight now, his father said before beginning to twist her head back and forth with great force. Over and over again the same sounds were heard from the rotation, till suddenly young Horace's father pulled and with all his might ripped her head from her body. Young Horace expected a water fountain of blood to cascade up and onto him from the wound, but she had been dead for far too long for that to happen. In that moment, young Horace felt a moment of peace. He was positive the nightmare was over then, but alas, he was very wrong. Horace could see the old, green, dirty dumpster his father threw his mother's decapitated body into. Young Horace was sure the ritual would end then, yet that wasn't the case. The boy had to kiss his mother's head goodnight and say, It's bedtime, baby, and then watch his father show his son how men show love to women. Except for this time it was just her head and a pillow with Vaseline on it. When his father got rid of his mother's head, he just replaced it with a hooker he picked up. His father was pretty clever. He made sure to use the wholesome widowed father and motherless son routine. The woman felt like she was safe with just some father and his young boy and was willing to join them. His father explained she didn't have to worry about that life anymore as long as she did what he asked, which was very simple stuff. They would all get along great. He explained the boy needed a mother figure, so all she had to do was allow young Horace to call her mom, and he had to kiss her on the forehead before bed every night. The poor woman thought it was a very simple request, especially compared to the life she was previously living, and said okay. That was chapter 20 of The Bedtime Killer by Loren Malloy. That's me. So make sure you subscribe or follow wherever you're watching or listening to this, because we're about to start chapter 21, and it gets even better. So I'll see you then.